Okay. Welcome to Rauta and Turku Saatanalle 8 festival, that is Satan for Turku. And now we have a Swedish band, Mephorash, here for interview. This is a shout out to Rosie Clown. Thank you for supporting the channel and keep peace to you as well. Let's start with you, Erik. Yes. Can you introduce yourself? What is your part, your role in the band?
I am the lead guitarist and main composer of Mephorash. I also do some backup vocals and parts with that, but my main focus is the guitar, and I write and compose all the musical aspects.
All right. You mentioned prior to the actual interview that you have 6 guys on stage, but as the band who actually creates the music, goes to the studio and so forth, you're only 2-man band.
Exactly.
Can you enlighten us why so?
We've tried different aspects to it all during our years. In the beginning we were more of a democracy, as you put it, like everyone got to decide and choose, but we found that it got too branched off in every aspect. So during the time we've come to the conclusion, especially with our last album 1557, that's where we really found our niche, if you want to call it that, with how we wanted to write the music. We found that me focusing on the musical aspects and our vocalist focusing on the lyrics and how he wanted to compose the singing and all that, it worked like it was magic in the studio when we put it together in that way. I write all the music and he focused on the vocals and all that, and then we come together and mix it up, and it just came out the way it did, and we found like, shit, this is how we're gonna do it from now on.
How did the other members react when you said like, okay guys, you're just gonna play on stage right now and not focus on the studio work, not songwriting or anything? Is it easy to just manage a band like that, or are their egos clashing?
You would think that it would be some clashing, but actually it kind of came natural because we replaced some members, and so they lost their input and say. So when we took in new members, they like kind of naturally took the sideline because they didn't, they're new and they didn't want to take too much room. So it kind of came natural anyway because we replaced so many of the members. And the ones we had, they said like, yeah, you write better music anyway, so it's better for that. So.
There are kind of 2 kind of artists, usually the stereotypes. They're the ones that create and who kind of dictate where the band is going and so forth. And then there are guys, like you said, kind of sideliners, which play an important role when it comes to live setup, but are not so much keen on writing music. How do you see, is there a difference in these kind of roles when you have both? You have the live part and you have the songwriting part. How do you switch between these 2 roles?
It's always been kind of natural for me to take the dictator role, or however you want to call it, because I've always been like the driving force behind all the, like, the stuff that other members don't like to do, taking care of the merchandising and the web shop and the contact on email with festivals, and I've always been like the arranger of everything. So they kind of know that what I say goes, and together with my childhood friend who is the vocalist, we're like the 2 people dictating everything, so the other members know that's just how it is. So there's no like clashing in that way. Of course the other members get their say and so, but it's like we found a really good dynamic between all the members, so there's never any clashes that way. It's just natural.
It could be claimed that this role when you're just a musician and playing on stage is less stressful, but it's also less rewarding, I could imagine. Like, for example, you have to deal not only with merchandising, creating the music and all, creating riffs and lyrics and all that stuff, but you also have to do all these interviews and stuff. Do you ever feel that you have too much on your plate?
Yeah, all the time.
How do you cope with it?
I think it's the passion that keeps me floating during the stressful parts. And as when you've always been in this dictator role, it's also very hard to let stuff go to other people. You have like an obsession with control, which I've had to deal with sometimes. During the latest, we've hired a crew member to help us with the merchandise, and everything feels like it's your child, and you don't want to put it in someone else's hand because you don't trust that they will do an equally good job as I do. As this is my driving passion, this is why I live this music and my band. So, but sometimes you gotta know your limits. So, you find ways to like put aside the stuff that really doesn't matter in that way, and learn to ask for help from the people around you. But as I said, the stress and all that, it's the passion makes it be kind of easy anyway.
How does your everyday life, that is family, maybe job, relationship, how do they interfere with the band, or are they just all the pieces in a puzzle?
In a lot of ways, many relationships and friendships have crashed because of the band. Because I will never put aside my passion, my music, and what I do because of our relationship. Unfortunately, for that part of my life, it's been stressful. But I think you have to find someone who accepts that. And that's been a challenge because when you have a partner in a relationship, they always want to be the main focus, and unfortunately that's not how my life is. Mephorash is my main focus in life, and it's like with job and everything. Of course, this is a passion-driven project, and I'm not in it to make money, so that's never been the thought. So it feels kind of for me like working keeps that aspect out of the band, because when you rely on the band to make your living, I think a part of the passion dies for some people. When you're in the studio and you think this record must be great now because otherwise I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. And I feel like having a normal day-to-day job, it removes that aspect. So when I'm writing my music, I can focus only that I want to make great art and no stress from the financial aspect of it.
That is one of the big questions, especially in the black metal genre, that you cannot really make money, but then you also have bills to pay. Yeah. And some people have claimed that when you just do it for the money, like you said, you're gonna start losing your grasp on the music, because then you have to kind of sacrifice something in order to boost sales. But the fact is that somebody has to build studio expenses. You have to sometimes get new gear, be it new instruments or just strings or whatever. How do you balance these things out? How much label helps you with this kind of stuff?
Our label has been very supportive financially, and they know what we deliver, so they know that we're not going to spend anything on bullshit.
No booze and drugs.
Oh. No, but they know what that we're good for it.
Mm-hmm.
We when we say like, hey, we need this much money for the studio, it's like, okay, you do your thing. They know what we do. So, but it's always a hard balance, to keep it interesting and have enough money so that it can be like a rolling stone down the hill for itself. So that's always been like the focus to, like, I don't want any of the other members or me to put money in from our private pockets just to keep it floating.
Mm-hmm.
So the focus is always to like make it roll by itself financially. And then we've reached that goal during the latest albums. So that's been like a stress relief as well, because it's not an easy job being a musician when the instruments break and costs that you didn't expect and everything. So it's helped a lot to have the label that we have that supports us with what we need, and then also to have enough money from merchandising so that we can buy new merchandise and we don't have to pay for that ourselves. So it's just rolling on by itself, and that helps a lot with the balancing part of it all.
Coming from Sweden and being a relatively new band, 10 years or so already in, but comparing to bands like Marduk and Dark Funeral and all those old names that already came in the 90s, not to mention bands like Bathory and all that stuff, how much have you had to kind of prove yourself, like, we're the new kids on the block, pun intended, to be the black metal guys who could actually deliver something new to the genre?
You know, there's always been that mentality, especially in Sweden, like that we're a new thing, and we started very young. When we were 15, we released our first like EP or album, and you know, it's very hard to push into the market when you're so young, especially, and also people hate new things. But for me, I've never cared about that aspect, because I write the music first and foremost for myself. It's my passion, and I've never cared about being accepted or not. If people love what we do, then I'm very glad for that. But if you don't, doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Who gives a shit?
In Sweden, there are many genres, even outside metal, obviously, which are very popular and successful. It doesn't matter if we talk about pop music, we can talk about ABBA, we can talk about black metal bands, we can talk, doesn't matter which way, but always Swedes seem to kind of be successful in whatever they touch in the music. So do you think there is something in your culture that cultivates the idea, like no envy maybe, or is there something that is very supporting in the terms of creating music that's from the Swedish perspective?
Yeah, maybe some hormones in the drinking water, I don't know. It's very hard. I think, you know, the ability to have the freedom to do whatever you want, I think has contributed very much, because when you're, as I said, when you're making art for the wrong reasons, it becomes shit often, I think. And in Sweden we have it's the economical stability, people have had jobs and everything, no problem with that, so you haven't had to become a musician for the financial aspect. So I think that our society has opened up very, very much for artistic freedom and culture in that way, and I think that has helped a lot. And I don't know, for me, the reason I started making music was because I had a pretty rough childhood, and that was my outlet for my frustration, and it's been like that all along. It's like a stress relief for me for all the shit you go through, you know. So
kind of like a vent in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what's the story behind the ABBA success, why they started making music, but for me it's been like you said, a vent for all the shit that you've been through.
Why did you choose black metal? And before you go to that, I mean, like, there's hundreds of thousands of different kind of micro genres, so to speak. You could go any style of metal, you could go any style of rock music. And why did you decide to go for the world of pentagrams, inverted crosses, burning churches, and Satan?
Yeah, as I said, I've grown up with a lot of frustration, so I think metal, I started listening to metal because that was a vent for the aggression, you know. So that came kind of natural for me to get into that music, because it was a very good vent for aggression. But then when I found black metal, I've always loved classical music all my life as well, because I think with that genre you can say so much with only music. You don't have to have any lyrics, you don't have to have any singing in that manner. You can transmit an emotion from me to you only with the music itself, whether it be happy or sad or angry. And I loved that classical music had this, like, you know, so death metal for me only feels angry, you know. But classical music, it has the whole spectrum. And when I found black metal, I like connected the dots between metal music and classical music because it has so much potential for all this. You can like marry strings and organs and orchestras together with the music so seamlessly. So when I found it, I was like, yes, this is my home ground. It's the perfect mix between metal and classical music. It just clicked in my head when I heard black metal for the first time.
Well, this is a good excuse to jump to some other bands you mentioned, like because of this mentioning, like Therion from Sweden. They did great job combining orchestral elements and classical music to extreme metal. And when we could debate that Dimmu Borgir did that same in Norway, but more blackish way, obviously. And then there are bands like Nightwish, which are more symphonic, but kind of include the same kind of elements. Which leads me to the actual question: why haven't you started going towards more orchestrated music? Why stick just with black metal?
We have a lot of orchestras in the music, but I think like I want to have the balance, because when you go too much overboard with that stuff, it gets kind of mushy. I think it feels like you lose the seriousness of the music somehow.
So it's like pizza becoming a salad.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, no rule.
I have bad metaphors.
Yeah, yeah, but kind of. It's, you know, I've always had this philosophy in life that everything is a balance, you know, between light and dark and good and evil, and you know, this balance have to be kept. So when I write the music, I always strive to have this perfect balance between everything, so that nothing becomes too much of this or too much of that. I want it to be a perfect balance of everything. So we have a lot of strings and choirs and stuff mashed in, but I wanted to like just add an essence of something, not become the whole essence of it, you know, just like just to add to the atmosphere of it. So I think that the main music with the guitars should be like what we do in the band, you know, it's us that is the focus, and all the other string instruments and choirs, they are like the background and the scenery, you know. Like I try to picture, when I write music, I try to picture something like a place or somewhere in nature or in a church or something, and I try to write the music to be an explanation of that environment, so that it's like me and the main vocalist, we are performing in that place, and all the other instruments are creating the atmosphere of that place. It's maybe a strange way of writing music, but I often picture images in my head, and I try to write a tune to that picture I get.
So you're basically channeling that visual side to the music.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk a little bit about lyrics and ideas. Usually black metal is very much tied to an ideology of sorts. So often also things like the occult or being anti-religiousness. What do these terms or words mean to you?
You know, I think religion and all the things that relate to that, it's just kind of a way for people to get a sense of what the fuck we're doing here. You know, it's like your personal reference to the world to get a grasp of it, because if you start to think about what everything is, you can become insane very quickly. So your culture and where you come from, you relate to stuff. So for people in Sweden, it's very natural to start to think about for Nordic stuff with Odin, because you can feel a personal relation to that because of the history of Sweden. So to explain why we exist and why we are here, it's very easy for you to start to build this fantasy world, or however you want to call it, to get a sense of why we are here. And I think that's also why Mephorash has been thematically like we have, because we enjoy all of that, you know, trying to get a sense of what is it, why we are here and everything. And we take and we check and we find things in every aspect of occultism and esotericism and religion, and we try to take things, how, you know, the picture I talked about. How can I portray this picture in the best way? And maybe sometimes that's from Indian culture, you know, to paint that picture, to have something, some aspect from that with the lyrics and all of that. So I think that's how we tie it in. We try to not limit ourselves to any ideology in any way. We open ourselves for everything instead, and we can take and borrow and steal from whatever religion or occult teaching that we find.
Right. You mentioned classical music as one of your inspiring things, but what kind of metal bands inspire you these days?
That's a tough question because I'm not really inspired by metal music anymore.
Do you still keep listening to it?
I listen, but it's not my main interest in music anymore. You know, you get kind of full of it when you've been doing it for 10 years, and it feels like you're only recycling yourself and everyone around you. It becomes kind of an incest when I sit and listen to Swedish black metal bands, and they listen to Swedish black metal bands.
It all becomes the same.
Yeah, exactly. It goes in a circle. So I've actually strived. I still enjoy it, of course, but I've strived away from it to get inspiration from other things nowadays. So I kind of, at the moment, enjoy psychedelic music very much. Old music like Pink Floyd, that's my favorite band. Always been since I was young as well. So that's kind of my main inspiration in how to make art. You know, I think Pink Floyd has really perfected the thing I talked about creating an atmosphere and putting you in a place through the music. So that's my main inspiration now. So I try not to be inspired by other metal bands or black metal bands because I don't want everything to be the same.
All right, this is a trick question then. If you get the chance to play with one of these gentlemen, but only one, Roger Waters or David Gilmour?
Roger Waters.
Why?
Because he is the artistic maniac.
He's the psychedelic guy.
Yeah, kind of. He has a very controversial, but for me, relatable way of creating music because he knows exactly what he wants, and that's like the clash, you know. Because David Gilmour wanted one thing, but Roger Waters knew exactly what he wanted, and he wouldn't back down from his vision, and I can relate very much to that. So I guess I'm kind of the asshole in the in the sense as well as he was, because I want things in a very specific way, and I'm not gonna back down for someone else's will for it, you know.
If we assume that someday, because of all your non-metallic inspiration, you wanted to take music to a new, different direction, would you rather bury Mephorash and start a new project, or would you just steer Mephorash towards new directions, even if it meant not doing black metal or metal in the first place?
That's a pretty tough question because I think we are always striving for new grounds. Just like I said, we don't want to recycle other metal bands' music, and we don't want to recycle our own music either. So we're always evolving a step at a time, and it becomes what it becomes. We don't have any laws or rules to what or how we should sound or what we should write about. So I think in a way that we're tiptoeing both further from metal and closer to it, depending on what we want. But if I have a separate vision or I want to create something else, I would start another project for sure. But we have no laws or rules in Mephorash, so it becomes what it becomes.
All right. What are your biggest dreams to reach with the band?
I've always said that my main goal is that, like, 500 years from now, when I'm dead, I want someone to pick up my music and listen to it and see that picture in their head that I tried to depict through my music, because then I will be immortal.
All right. Do you have any words of wisdom or motto that you would like to share with the audience, maybe those who just found the band?
Just never limit yourself in anything in life. Just do whatever you want, and fuck all that true bullshit, and you like what you like and you do what you want.
All right, thank you for honesty. Now the last question: which album or release should a new possible fan to start with the career of your band?
Our latest album, Mephorash, I would say, because it's the most perfected version of us.
All right, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you very much.
Please do yourself a favor, check out this good band from Sweden. You all know Swedes have good black metal, don't you? And if you don't, pull your head out of your butthole and start checking out these guys. They're good, and maybe you'll be a little bit happier once you find this band also. This is all from Rauta. You take care, be metal, be true. Kiitos. Tack.
Thank you. Tack. Kiitos.
Yes, that was some fine words of wisdom right there.
Yeah, thank you.
I must say,